Hello, Vol Nation. It is a good week to be a volunteer after the absolute domination this past weekend. Tennessee has moved to 3-2 on the season with a absolute blowout, 62-24 victory against Missouri. Was able to basically do anything they wanted to do on offense. Beatty was not able to get anything going on the run game. 683 yards, 400 plus on the ground. Not 458, actually, to be exact. No real complaints. I don't see how anybody could really have complaints. Maybe Missouri isn't quite as decent. Nobody thought they were great. Maybe they're not quite as decent as we thought. Maybe they're Vanderbilt level or somewhere around there. I doubt it because Vanderbilt's kind of special. Or maybe Tennessee just something finally clicked on the offensive end that we haven't seen this year. And it was just a very exciting to put up that many points, to hold them to that little points, and just basically, as I mentioned earlier, being able to do anything we wanted, run the ball, short passes, deep passes, run with the quarterback, screen passes. It just seemed like anything Heupel was drawing up, Tennessee was able to execute, and that was my big positive. Is we've seen beautiful play calling. We saw it against Florida. We saw wide open guys. It was either overthrows or it was drop passes, and the execution this time showed, I think, some fans that doubted Heupel showed, wow, Heupel's got it figured out. In my mind, Heupel's had it figured out. We just don't have the players yet to be able to do it, and they showed they were able to do that. Hooker established himself as quarterback one. So, Trey, what were some things you noticed that you saw that was pretty encouraging for you to see for the rest of the year?
Yeah, obviously the offense, played just about as good as they, could have going into that game. I didn't expect to see that many points scored. I knew Missouri's run defense was super bad, but I really didn't expect. You're talking 3-4 touchdowns, just like that, back to back, and that was really nice to see. But I think that's like kind of the main focal point, throughout the country. That's kind of the main headline coming out of that game. So I'll talk about the defense, and really it's really been throughout this whole season for me. It's been the biggest surprise because I expected our defense to really struggle, and we do at times. There are times, in the second half against Florida, that's the first game that comes to mind. Pitt, second half, really the second quarter against Pitt, but there's just times where defense looks, just kind of going through the motions, going out there and lining up. But against Missouri, they keyed in on Beatty, and they had basically like seeing ghosts out there. That first drive, he was throwing the ball, but nowhere near a receiver. And, I just think we had him. Banks has done a great job putting people in the right position. You were out without Juwan Mitchell, who we thought coming into the season was going to be a key guy at the linebacker position, but really, and I'll own up to it. I dogged on Salon Page and Aaron Beasley after that first game, but they played really well in run and pass defense. So props to those guys for stepping up, and hopefully we roll that momentum over into South Carolina coming into town.
We've got South Carolina coming off a 9-point victory against Troy. Struggled a little bit against them. Definitely a nice thing to see. Coming off of a dominant win, facing a team who struggled a little bit against a lower tier team. South Carolina did hold them to 308 yards of offense. One of the things that Heupel said in his press conference today, he was asked the question, what does South Carolina present that can be a problem for Tennessee? And one of the things that he hit on was exactly right, was turnovers. They forced 4 turnovers last week against the Trojans, and that's something that they've kind of instilled this year. Heupel pointed out, and in watching a little bit of film of preparation, I haven't gotten the chance to watch much of South Carolina live, but watching them in preparation for this week, and Heupel kind of hit on it today, is that South Carolina, every time they're going after the ball, they're trying to strip it, they're trying to pull it, and Heupel obviously didn't extend and kind of go on from that, but I think that's a big key in protection. But also, you can take advantage of teams that like to do that. If you can maintain your ball management, but if they're going to go for the ball, you can utilize different ways to make a miss, and that's what we saw against Missouri. I mean, it wasn't like it was 100% time with holes open. I mean, the line was creating great holes. We could do anything we wanted. And that was the majority of the time we saw no contact from Missouri for a while. But when contact did come, when there was pressure, we were able to evade that pressure with our versatility. And I think that's something we can do against South Carolina. Their defensive front is a lot better than Missouri. I mean, how could you not be after giving up 400 some yards on the ground? But South Carolina is not a fluke in their front seven. Looking at some stats heading into this before we picked this game, South Carolina's averaged 328 yards. They've only averaged 22 points a game this year. It's a lot less than Tennessee, who is up there at the top. They've got, a new coordinator. It's definitely been a work in progress. Luke Doty threw for 255 yards against Troy, but he's only completing 58% of his passes. He's thrown 566 yards through the 5 games. So nothing spectacular. They do have a big play wide receiver in Josh Vann, 16 catches for 343 yards. One of the things that he likes to do is yards after catch. He's leading the SEC with 21 yards per catch. But looking at the other receivers, they really do not have anybody after that. That's their playmaker. After that, they don't really have much. But looking at what Tennessee has done, South Carolina is definitely going to attack and do a little bit more through the air. Teams have not been able to run on Tennessee, and it bodes well for Tennessee that their run game they've just had one rushing touchdown all season, even against some lower tier opponents, and they're averaging 121 yards per game. I mean, they're essentially right now, we almost matched them last week in what they've done all year. They're not doing much. They do have their 5-star running back, but he's averaging about 3 yards a carry right now. Got a freshman who's been a little bit, more solid. But Tennessee averaging almost 500 yards of offense, 41 points per game, completing a lot more better percentages. And we're also getting it done on the ground. We've had, Velus Jones is kind of led, but we've also had Javonte Payton, who's been that deep threat, finding the end zone the last 3 games. And we've had that defense stepping up. And I think, Trey and I have talked about it a little bit before the game or before the podcast. In my mind, this should be an absolute domination. I don't think it's going to be last week, but I don't know if you're going to see that kind of domination until we play Vanderbilt, hopefully. That should be what the Vanderbilt game looks like with a little bit less points scored by Vanderbilt. I mean, I could definitely see like a 56-3 game against them, but that's a long ways away. And that's not just me. Yeah, Tennessee is back, but Vandy's just a really, really bad team. But I think Tennessee should carry this game. I'm going to go with 42-20. I think our offense gets going. I don't think South Carolina gets much going. I think they get a turnover that may lead to some points. But ultimately, I think they end up kicking field goals. They get a turnover that gets them a touchdown. And then I think towards the end of the game, when we're up about 42 to 13 or something, I think that they might get a late touchdown or something like that against our second tier or something. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe last week was a fluke. I believe after last week, I'm not going to go say we're going to go 8-4 or 7-5. I still think 6-6 is what we want. Maybe we can upset Ole Miss or UK to get to that 7th win, but I'm not quite there yet. But I think we should handle South Carolina. I think their flaws play right into our hands, and I think Heupel and staff are good enough to expose that. And so I'm going to go with 42-20 victory for Tennessee.
Yeah, I don't think I won't call them a fluke. Their front seven, South Carolina's front seven. But if you just look at the teams that they've played, I mean, yeah, their defense, they got the stats. They're still ranked a top 10 defense in the country, which that seems a little fluky. That sounds fluky. But if you look at who they played, I mean, Eastern Illinois, East Carolina, Georgia, Kentucky, Troy. None of those teams are known this season, anyways, to have a potent offense. So, I mean, the task hasn't – even Georgia, the number 2 team in the country, like their offense, they're number 2 in the country because of their defense. So, I mean, it's – their defense doesn't really scare me quite as bit as it might, other people and people online. I don't think we're going to struggle at all running the ball on South Carolina. I'll look for us to pick up right where we left off. And, it's even there on the offensive side of the ball for the Gamecocks, like they ran for 250 plus yards on Eastern Illinois. Since then, they're only averaging right at 85 yards a game. So that bodes well for our front seven as well on the other end. And then, talking about turnovers, we haven't turned the ball over in the past 2 weeks. I'm pretty sure we got out of Florida without a turnover, right? I'm pretty sure we did.
I think so. If we did, it wasn't – I don't know if it was critical. I mean, other than that turnover on downs. But, I mean, I don't think – I'll look while you're talking. I don't think we had a turnover against them.
So that's another, key part of this. Like we've been talking about it, pretty much every week. Turnovers and penalties. Once you cut those out, I mean, you would have beat Pitt, and you would have been right there with Florida on penalties even. So, I mean, that's going to be a key part of this game is maintaining control of the ball and just keep running it down South Carolina's throat. Really on offense, like you were saying, there's no like standout guy on that offense. Their quarterback is very subpar. Really, I mean, that guy they had last year, they ain't got nobody like that this year. So, and on defense, I mean, I was looking at their defensive stats. They don't have like a pass rusher that's just out there killing it or like a D lineman racking up, tackles for loss. It's just really been, again, I think it's a lot in part to the offenses they've been seeing, like Troy, Kentucky, Georgia, South Carolina, Eastern Illinois. Like none of those guys, they're not Tennessee offense. And I know this is very new, and I might be, kicking myself in the butt for saying this, but like Tennessee's offense, they haven't seen anyone that's going to run with the explosiveness that Jabari Small and Tylen Evans do. They haven't seen a quarterback that can get out of the pocket the way that Hendon Hooker can and will, very, very easily. I mean, he's been doing it all season. So I just think it's a really good matchup for Tennessee. You're at home. You're breaking out the new uniforms. I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but that should add some excitement to the atmosphere. And just overall, it's going to be a fun one. I think, like you do, that we should win by anywhere from 14 to 21 points. I'll say. I I'll say that I don't see South Carolina putting up more than 20 to 21 points on us. So if we can get over that 40 mark, it'll be a no brainer by fourth quarter.
Yeah. That's the key. I mean, you hit it right there on the head. We've got to score points, and they're not going to outscore us. They're not. If our offense struggles, that's really my only worry. So we both looking there, and as you mentioned, I'm going into our next thing before we do our pick 'em. Keeping our show a little short tonight, late in the week. We know we got a game Saturday and releasing this on Friday, so give you a quick listen before the game on Saturday. Trey mentioned it, the uniforms. There's been rumors of it since last year. COVID, is Nike doing this, that, and finally Tennessee breaks out their black uniforms. For those fans that are down on the helmets, black was attempted, as a couple people, and I was listening to Jason Swain mentioning it. Just the trying to get those in, and it's not as simple as just putting a decal on a helmet. These helmets are very expensive. Somebody was telling me the other day that the helmet that Hendon Hooker wears, just the helmet, just a white helmet, somebody was looking online, is about $950. You put the decals and the things on it, you're looking at a helmet over $1,000. And I know every player's not going to have that. A kicker's not going to have one that's made to be like that, but a lot of players are. So it's not as easy as just going down to Dick's Sporting Goods and getting a helmet and putting a decal on it. These take time to really look good. So maybe we'll see him. Heupel hinted today, his press conference on Thursday, that there was a possibility of some more uniforms throughout the year, combinations. I don't know if we'll throw out a new uniform, but there may be orange pants with black jerseys or vice versa, different things like that. I'm super stoked. I think it's great. I think it's a great idea. People out there getting angry and getting mad about it. You are not kids. We've mentioned that on this show a lot. These are college kids, and whatever makes them happy. I saw somebody today put on Twitter, and I know Trey's going to mention a little bit about that, but I saw another guy put on Twitter today. He said, if Tennessee came out in hot pink and sparkles, I would be happy if they were happy. And I mean, that's how you have to feel. If these guys are happy, Walter Nolan's on there putting nice look with the black heart, and these recruits are like, oh my goodness. You got former players like Shy Tuttle, Kevon Bennett, these guys, even people that have transferred that are like, man, you got to give me one of these jerseys. These are awesome. And this fan base, you've seen how the majority of this fan base has just been absolutely fired up. We know that jerseys don't win games, but if it gets the kids pumped up, we saw the reaction at practice. I mean, you can't beat that. So what do you think about the uniforms?
Well, I think not even talking about how they look or how they turned out or what people think about them. I think Heupel said it best. It's at the end of the day, it's a recruiting tool. Not only for, kids that he's currently recruiting to come to Tennessee, the kids that are within his program now. We've had a lot of turnover recently, and, it's not just a no-brainer to say that after this season, we'll see some more guys leave the program to explore other opportunities. So he's always recruiting within our program currently and, going forward for the future of the program. So I think this is something that Tennessee's really lacked through the last, one or two or three coaching staffs, is just someone who understands the modern recruiting style and can go through with it. And I think, uniforms are a big part of that. And that's something I hope that Heupel would bring with him and Danny White from UCF, because, I mean, their uniforms they had down there were always super cool. They were always changing it up. I mean, you saw it all over social media all the time. And I mean, the more publicity you get, the better. I mean, I saw Barstool tweeting it out and Uniswag. I saw a bunch of different, you know, social media sites like that giving us some positive feedback, and that goes a long way with recruiting. So that's number one positive. Number two, the guys, I don't know if you saw the video, but they loved it. They were hyped up about it, and I'm with you, man. I mean, if they like it, I like it. I don't know if I could go as far as saying if they're in hot pink, I'd be happy. I'd feel a little bit. I'd be like, what in the world am I watching? But at the end of the day, I'm not wearing the uniform. It really doesn't matter what they're wearing. I will say the jerseys look super clean, super nice. They still have a traditional look, traditional UT look to them with a nod to the throwback black that we wore back in. I saw Jesse Simonton tweeted out the 1914 national title team wore them. So it is part of our tradition, and for all you guys that don't like it, I guess don't watch Saturday. If you don't like it that much, if it bothers you that much, then just listen to it on the radio and go cry about it. I don't know. I got nothing for you.
Who are you going to shout out? We'll just kind of go with the negative all into this because I think it both has to do with this. So who did you have kind of down in the uniforms?
So it's Dixie Fieldhouse. Let me see if I can find the tweet. He's since blocked me, which is fine. But he was talking about how because they were worn in 1914 and they were black, he had a big long argument with Chad Fields, known Jersey connoisseur for all things Tennessee, all things football in general. But big long argument about how we didn't actually wear black. It's just how the pictures looked. Well, Chad proved him wrong. And then he moved the goalpost to, well, they're not actually jerseys, they're sweaters. Because they didn't have jerseys in 1914.
Still a color. I mean.
Yeah. So I'll just give him a shout out for negative all the week. He's been mad online about it for a couple of weeks now, but this week he's been really firing them off, just all up in a fit about it. Does not think that we should be wearing anything but orange and white forever and always. I don't know. Just
it is
things change.
Is he the one that said that he wanted us to lose this week in our black?
Yeah, he said if I can't watch Tennessee in orange and white on Saturdays, then they might as well lose.
All right. Well, what? Don't watch then, like you said. And I go along with the line. I've stopped looking for bad tweets, and I'm just going to Vols Picks page. But he was proven wrong by a couple people this week, which was awesome. I think you said was it your brother that tweeted out? Is your brother Caleb?
Yeah.
Okay, so I actually saved this, and then Trey told me later it was his brother. He retweeted the dark mode, the tweet about us, going dark mode in the uniforms, and said Tennessee's trying to look like UCF. Not sure where he's going with that. I mean, I guess they did wear black, but I mean, Butch Jones is currently wearing black tonight. So last I checked. It wasn't. 38-7 right now. Way to go, Butch. About to hit 1-5. But anyways, he said Heupel never wears an orange shirt. Just saying. Which was quickly followed up. I mean, within minutes. J.N.K. Smith at Caleb Smith, Trey's brother, pulling out multiple pictures of Jeremy Pruitt in games and practices, press conferences, wearing his orange. And I'm just like, Heupel never wears an orange shirt, just saying. Like, what are you trying to prove? Even if he didn't wear orange, what does that prove? I mean, it proves absolutely nothing. I mean, he has talked all year long, and especially today on Thursday when we're recording this, and we're releasing this on Friday. But on Thursday, he said in his press conference, I remember Heupel said, "We have the best uniform combinations, the best colors." He's like, "These kids love to put on the orange and white. They love it when it's orange pants. They love it when you've got the white cleats, the black jerseys." He's like, "We can do so many things with our tradition." And that's right. Tennessee may not be where they used to be as a powerhouse program. We're not close to it. Hopefully we get back to that. We've been saying that for years. Hopefully it happens. But the brand of Tennessee, as we mentioned, week in and week out sells. It has been there. You go anywhere. Went to Disney World this year in Orlando, and my goodness, like I wore it was when Tennessee was playing in the College World Series, and like I wore a shirt that said Omaha on it with the Tennessee baseball, and like the number of people that stopped me, "Go Vols, Rocky Top." I mean, it's nuts, and this is in Gator country here. I mean, you're down there. Well, I guess Central Florida. This is Balls Picks country, I guess, since he loves to talk about Central Florida. I mean, who cares what color? But for him to say that, I mean, he just pulls stuff out. So thanks, Dixie and Balls Picks, Dixie Fieldhouse and Balls Picks for being our nega ball. All right, so we're gonna move on. Last thing, we're gonna do our picks. Not sure how they went last week. Maddie had to work late, so she's not able to be with us this week. She's got the picks. Trey was not with us last week, and Big Juice Davis picked for him. But remembering, I think he did pretty well. There were a lot of kind of gimme games I think we all agreed on. Maybe not the spread, but we don't go with the spread. So we'll have to check that next week. But week 6, we both picked Tennessee and South Carolina. So the next game we've got is an interesting 12 o'clock kickoff. We've got Arkansas headed to Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a 5.5 point favorite. Arkansas coming off a whooping from Georgia, not putting up any points. Ole Miss obviously coming off a whooping against Bama. So both of these teams got a little bit of a dose of reality. I'm going to go with Ole Miss at home. I think it's going to be a close game, but I'm going to go with Ole Miss.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go Ole Miss as well. I just think I think it's a good spot for Ole Miss's offense to kind of rebound against an Arkansas defense that at times has shown it's pretty good, and I still think it's pretty good. I think Sam Pittman is going to continue to build that program up. But just for right now, I think the high-powered offense of Ole Miss is just going to be too much for Arkansas to overcome. I don't think they're going to have enough offense to keep up with them.
All right, next we've got another 12 o'clock kickoff. We've got Vandy coming off a great win against a powerhouse UConn. Sarcasm there for the listeners out there. Headed to Florida. The Swamp. Florida is a 39-point favorite. It's easy, Florida. I'm not sure they cover just because I'm not in love with Florida's offense, but I don't think it matters. I think they'll create turnovers. They'll get easy touchdowns, but I think they're going to give some other guys some time to play. So it's hard when a cover gets that much. Can they beat them by 39? They can beat them by 70 if they wanted to, but Florida's going to handle it. It's not going to be close.
Yeah, the one interesting thing about this game, I think, is going to be the total, which is set at 59.5. They got Florida at pretty much a 40-point favorite, so they're saying the final score is supposed to be 50-10. I'm with you. I don't know if Florida can put up 50 for one, and I'm not sure that Vandy can score 10. So might look at the under in that game, but I won't even give it a second thought on Saturday. So I may check in at the end of the day just to see what the final score ended up being. But yeah, Florida's going to roll.
All right, next game, we've got Georgia headed to Auburn. Georgia's a 15.5 point favorite. This is the 3:30 CBS game. I think this game is going to be closer than people think. at home, coming off a big win for Auburn against LSU. In the last second, Bo Nix kind of shut some people up. I don't expect Auburn to win this game. I think Georgia's defense is not only the best in the country, but one of the best that I've seen in a really long time. I think Trey hit on it earlier. I'm still not sold on their offense. I don't know how they'll go against someone like a Bam. I mean, um, their defense is good enough to create, small field, backing people up in their territory, having third and longs, fourth and longs, things like that, creating turnovers that can lead to points. And I'm not saying their offense is bad. I just don't know when they face, better opponents, how well their offense will be. I think this will be a ball game, but I think Georgia's defense is just going to be too much. I'm going to take the under, but I still think Georgia wins by maybe 13, so just a little bit under it. But I think it's going to be a game till the fourth quarter, and then I think that Auburn's just not going to be able to score late against Georgia's defense.
Yeah, for me, the thing to watch for in this game is Georgia's quarterback situation is still up in the air. JT Daniels still trying to get healthy. Stetson Bennett, I mean, nothing special. Can they really rely on him to win the game? I know he had his kind of beginner's luck, quote unquote, last year when he came out and just set the world on fire in those first 3 games. But I mean, Auburn's run defense is really good. They held Penn State to under 100, held LSU to under 50. So I mean, Georgia's going to have trouble moving the ball, especially early in this game. I think it's going to come down to Bo Nix. Can he? Which version of him are you going to get? Are you going to get the guy who's just out there throwing it around, or are you going to get the guy who's dialed in and can make spectacular plays? Because we saw both even last week. So it's going to be a good game. I'm with you. I think it's going to be a lot closer than what people think. I'll go Georgia 30, Auburn 20. I'll say it's a 10-point game.
All right. Next game, SEC game of the week, North Texas against Missouri. Missouri coming off a wonderful showing last week, made us all happy. Both teams with a losing record right now. It's at Missouri at 4:00. Missouri is a 19-point favorite. Missouri is not that good. I don't think they're as bad as people will say. I think Tennessee just played a very impressive game. North Texas is bad. They beat Northwestern State, but they got killed by UAB, and got killed by. They also got killed by SMU. Missouri will win this game, and I think that Missouri will cover barely. I think it'll be a 3-touchdown game, but it's there's better things to do than to watch this 4:00 game. Tune into the Georgia Auburn game. Don't watch this one.
It could be one of those games where Missouri gets the brakes beat off of them at home against an SEC opponent, and then comes in the next week a little sleepy and hungover and still black and blue from the beating Tennessee gave them. North Texas isn't very good. It's going to be Missouri beating themselves if they lose this game. I won't predict it to happen because I have no reason to, but I wouldn't be shocked, like overly surprised if Missouri struggles in this game. I'll take Missouri by 3 touchdowns.
All right, our next game is a 7:30 night game. You got Kentucky at home hosting LSU. Kentucky is a 3-point favorite. LSU coming off tough loss to Auburn, obviously losing to UCLA earlier in the year. I think Kentucky is a lot better than we thought coming into this year. I know some people were pegged high on them. I wasn't as much. I think they're surprising me right now. But I'm going to go with the upset. I think LSU goes into Kentucky. I think Kentucky's a little bit, as you mentioned, kind of with Missouri being beat up and kind of hung over. I think Kentucky, with their win against Florida, I think they're a little hyped up. They've got Georgia next week, a game they're going to have circled. Um, I think they might overlook LSU. I think LSU gets an upset. It seems like Kentucky has had a lot of these over the last couple of years. Some great starts and beating some teams they shouldn't have, like they did this year with Florida and things. But I mean, you look at beating a team like Florida by 7, but also only beating a team like Missouri by 7, only beating a team like Chattanooga by 5, beating a team like South Carolina by 6. I mean, over the past 4 weeks, every game has come down to the end. I think LSU knows they've got to get it done. I mentioned at the beginning of the year, and others have said it, Orgeron's on the hot seat. I mean, you don't win a national championship and then go out and have 2 mediocre years and expect to keep your job. You know, he had a great team with Jefferson and Chase and obviously Burrow, but I think LSU goes in and gets the upset. I think they smack Kentucky in the face and come out hot early. I think Kentucky settles down and gets back in the game. But I'm gonna go with LSU. I'm gonna go by LSU by a field goal.
It's really weird because I was going to predict the same thing. Yeah. And really just, it's not necessarily, it's just a good spot. LSU's in a good spot to pull this upset. Kentucky's riding high off that victory against Florida. And, they're an LSU coming off a loss against Auburn at home. They're in a dire spot for a win. Coach O knows his seat's getting hot. I'm sure the boosters have been, whispering in his ear, hey, man, you really got to win next week and all this. So I just, from a talent aspect, LSU has the guys to do it. They just haven't really shown it this season. And Kentucky, we all know that Kentucky is capable. I mean, their best team ever came into Knoxville and absolutely acted like they had never played football before. So, we know what they're capable of, and we know what LSU is capable of. So I just think this is a really good spot to, especially from a betting perspective. If you can get LSU at plus 3.5 closer to Saturday when that game kicks, I would definitely take that. I love that pick, and I'm going to sprinkle a little bit on LSU money line.
All right, and the last SEC game of the week, 8 o'clock on CBS, is Alabama headed to Texas A&M. Alabama is an 18-point favorite. We know what Texas A&M brings at home with that field, the 12th man. That place can get pretty rowdy. Doesn't matter against Alabama. Alabama doesn't get flustered. They won't get flustered in this game. Alabama will take care of business. Once again, it's something we're going to say all year, unfortunately. But just a well-coached team, well-oiled machine. Texas A&M might hit them early, might keep it close, but not only does Alabama have talent, but they've got depth for days. Guy goes down with an injury. It's something we worried about Tennessee this year. We've seen a lot of young guys kind of step up, and depth is hopefully not going to be a concern this week. But against teams like Ole Miss, Bama, Georgia, Kentucky, those are going to be games that we're really not going to have the depth that the other guys have. That's something Heupel will get. But Bama is just even if the team holds them close in the first half, Bama's got enough depth to withstand. If they get tired, they can bring in a guy that's just as good, that's at 100% playing against your best player who's about at 40 or 50%. Bama's going to take this game, and I'm going to pick them by 24. I think they cover.
Yeah, I'm having trouble because, Bama's obviously – they're going to win the national title this year. They're the best team in the country. It's just – after seeing Florida against us and Florida against Kentucky, thinking back to that game, against Alabama, I don't really think it was Florida playing Alabama close. I think it was Alabama playing Florida close, and they kind of, didn't put their best product on the field. I'm not really sure how to just from a betting perspective. Bama's going to win. They're probably going to win by 2 touchdowns, 2 to 3 touchdowns. But just talking about Bama going forward, I don't see them losing a game. I don't see them stumbling at all. But I just wonder if this is, one of those teams, and we've seen them in the past where Bama just, they play close. They play up and down to their opponents, and they get in some really bad situations, but find a way to get out of it because they're just so much better and so much, better coached, more talent. So I think we might see a little bit of that against Texas A&M because, I'm just going to take a shot at that because I think that's what we saw against Florida. I'll take Bama 45, Texas A&M 22, 23. Make it a football number.
All right. And moving on to our 3 top 25 games before we sign off here. Our first one that we've got is a noon kickoff, ABC kickoff. Oklahoma headed to Texas. Oklahoma is a 3-point favorite right now. They're 5-0. Texas is 4-1, losing to Arkansas earlier in the year. This is interesting because you've got a team like Texas who's always like, we're back, and they're not. You've got a team in Oklahoma who, taking out their one game against Western Carolina that they won 76-0. This is their victory by 5, 7, 3, and 6. None of those teams ranked. Some of those teams, not bad in West Virginia, Nebraska, Tulane, and Kansas State. Playing close, you got Texas who, coming off a close game against TCU, put up 70 against Texas Tech, 58-0 against Rice, obviously lost to Arkansas in week 2, and beat Louisiana pretty good earlier in the year when they were both ranked. This is a tough game because on paper, I want to go with Oklahoma, but I also don't believe fully that Oklahoma has shown me anything. This is a tough one to pick, and I've flip-flopped a lot on it because it depends so much on it's depending so much on who actually shows up. And I know that's kind of cliche to say, but neither of these two teams have shown anything great. But I'm gonna go with Oklahoma. And the reason why is I think they're very similar teams. Texas averaging a little bit more points a game, pretty low points allowed per game, very close on yards and things like that they've gotten on offense. The difference for me is the rush yards allowed. Texas is allowing 170. Oklahoma is allowing 83. And I know we've talked about the opponents. Spencer Rattler can look like $1 million, and then he can also look like Johnny Manziel playing, for the Browns. I mean, there's times where it looks amazing and times it doesn't. I think Oklahoma gets it done. I think it's a close game. I think it's maybe the game of the week. I could see a game like a 49-48 game, just like a thriller. I think Texas covers. I don't think Oklahoma wins by more than I thought it was 5. It's 3. It's close, but I'm going to go with Oklahoma. Very, very close game. Maybe 1 or 2 points.
Yeah, two things for me on this game. Spencer Rattler's coming off probably his best performance at Oklahoma against Kansas State last week. He looked like a completely different dude. I know there was a lot of talk after his game 2 weeks ago about maybe he's not the guy. The fans were yelling for the backup, and he came out and shut him up against Kansas State, and that's really what you want to see out of your quarterback, who's supposed to be, he's a 5-star guy. Everyone in the country wanted him. That's what you should get. That's the answer that Oklahoma needed, and he gave it to him in a big way, because Kansas State was, I mean, it was back and forth all game until the fourth quarter. So they really needed his performance there. In this game, it comes down like Texas quarterback Thompson. He's never played in this game. And this game is high emotion. It's very, very similar to what Tennessee Florida used to be, RIP. But just from an emotion standpoint and a rivalry, and it's probably the biggest rivalry right now in college football, in my opinion. That as far as competitiveness and just people tuning in, nationwide aspect, like everyone tunes in for this game. It's always a great game, and Spencer Rattler's had that experience playing in it, so he's well equipped to handle it and to handle that pressure when things do get close. And but I do think that one thing that's going to be that could make it interesting is if Texas's quarterback can make plays with his legs, because Oklahoma's back, their D backs are just they're not that great, but if he can make plays through there and on the ground, we saw last year, Sam Ehlinger last year, what he was able to do last year. So, but I think Oklahoma pulls it out. I'm with you. I think they take the lead at halftime and then just kind of keep it. It's going to be back and forth, but I think Oklahoma pulls it out, like you said, somewhere 45-41, something like that.
All right, our second game, 7:30 kickoff. We've got number 14 Notre Dame headed to Lane Stadium to face the Hokies, Virginia Tech. This game isn't even right now. Some have Notre Dame a 1-point favorite. It's kind of gone between that. Lane is a special place with their fans. They get pretty hyped to Metallica there, and it's a nice atmosphere, beautiful campus. Not as many fans as you would think, but they definitely do get loud. I'm not a Tech fan being in that line. I hear a lot of stuff about Tennessee football being, in the Virginia-Tennessee line, and I'm sure Trey does too, kind of being around here. But, the thing about it, I think too, is that, and I've heard Tech fans say this, they're not a very good football team. They're not. I'm not here saying Tennessee is, but Virginia Tech is a very kind of bleh team. They can do what needs to get done, but they're not gonna. It's not gonna be very pretty. They honestly, and maybe not in every facet, but they honestly remind me of like Wisconsin Junior. They can beat people if they get going, or they can get blown out. They don't do anything exciting. I mean, it's not like they've got a wonderful defense they pride themselves on. I mean, they don't have Beamer ball anymore. They used to come out and just do crazy things, and it got people hyped. Notre Dame destroyed Wisconsin. Notre Dame's the better team. I don't think Notre Dame's great. We talked about that this year. I kind of hope Notre Dame loses this game just so we don't have to worry about them at the end of the year. They got that one loss though. They're only one loss. We don't need that. They may not lose the rest of the year. USC, North Carolina, Navy, Virginia, Georgia Tech, Stanford. I mean, they may run the table. They could slip up to any of those people, except maybe Navy. But I think they're going to handle Virginia Tech. I don't think Virginia Tech's very good. I know some of my friends might listen to this and think I'm dogging them, and I'm not. We're in the same boat, guys. Tennessee's not very good. Difference is we're playing South Carolina, and we're on a little bit of a roll. You had an off week, and you barely got by Richmond, and you lost the week before. So I've got Notre Dame, and I think Notre Dame wins by 2 touchdowns plus. I don't think Tech can stay with their depth.
Well, I'll go opposite. I'll say Tech
All right.
pulls it out. I think Tech having that extra week of preparation for Notre Dame is a big part of this of my prediction here, and being in Lane, man. I mean, you can say what you want. Neyland obviously superior. Shout out Adam. Know you're listening. Neyland better than Lane Stadium. We all know that. It's a well known fact. But Lane is pretty special, especially with Notre Dame coming into town. It's going to be rocking. And, their quarterback plays shaky. I don't think they've came out and named a starter. I think that the guy that replaced Cone, I want to say, is better. The backup that came in late against Wisconsin, he came in late the past 2 games, but I can't remember his name right now. I think he's the better option, but not sure who they're going to play. I do know they're without their top wide receiver, and I know that their tight end is a game time decision right now. The only thing that makes me question this a little bit, and my friend gave me this nugget. He said Tech's kicker is more questionable than throwing a deep fade on 4th and 1. So that makes me worry a little bit. I'm still going to take him just for the simple fact that you took Notre Dame, and he's all excited about it. So I'm going to ride the hokey pokey with him here today, and I'll root for Tech because I hate Notre Dame. I don't think they're legit. I think Wisconsin. I've bet on Wisconsin every week, and they have just failed miserably each and every time I bet on them. So they're blacklisted. Notre Dame, you're a fraud. You're out of here. Look at the Irish is gone. Let's go Hokies.
Yeah, we're all Hokie fans. I mean, I'm not putting down Tech. I just don't think they're very good. Tech fans would agree, and I like you mentioned with Notre Dame, want them to be knocked out. And 2, Tech fans, my friends have told me we still want rid of Fuente. I want Tech to win just so they keep with Fuente. I mean, if you want to go 7-5 every year like Tennessee did for a bit, and you can see how it feels to be consistently mediocre because we know all about that.
I still have the receipts on my Facebook. It pops up on my memories around April or May, I think, is when they hired him in the offseason. But it pops up on my memories, and I share it every time. Bad hire, wouldn't have hired Fuente. And then I just like to scroll through the comments and see all the Hokies fans telling me, oh, he's going to be great, better than Butch and all this. But now, like you said, everyone, even my buddy, like all my friends, they want rid of him.
Yeah.
But this is the exact same. Like, he's in a situation. Butch did this to us. He'll win this game and win another year.
Yeah, just keep that process. Yep. And that's where sometimes as fans it gets a little tough. You never want to lose, but same time, you wonder what the boosters are thinking. Oh, if we beat Notre Dame, we got to keep him another year. I mean, you don't want to root for a loss. There was not one point during the Pruitt era I was hoping we lost, but some of those losses were let up a little bit and thinking, in the Butch era and Dooley era and everything for the last forever. But yeah, let's go Hokies. Let's string them along, and they really need a defensive-minded coach. I think they need to go back to the Frank Beamer type. And I know Beamer was very versatile, but they need that hard-nosed person that can get something like Beamer ball back and get those guys excited. Because Fuente is just offense, electric, and it's like if Josh Heupel came in here and decided to just run the Jeremy Pruitt offense, we would be fire him, get rid of him. I mean, you want that excitement, and we may never get there with him, but we've definitely got the excitement. That's what we wanted at the beginning of the year. Win or lose, give us excitement. And the last game, the big game of the week, number 4 Penn State at number 3 Iowa. 4:00 game. Iowa right now is a 1.5 point favorite. I think this game is, for me, is huge that it's at Iowa. If it was a night game at Penn State, I would have probably not even looked at it, just because I think these teams are so even. Both of these squads have played some tough teams. They Penn State got by Wisconsin by 6, got by Auburn by 8. They held Indiana scoreless, 24-0, and then 2 kind of gimme games. You look at Iowa. Iowa also played Indiana and blew them out. Then played a top 10 team in Iowa State, beat them by double digits, killed Kent State, got by Colorado State. Colorado State has kind of been this sneaky little team this year, kind of playing some different people, almost beat Vanderbilt. And then last week, just, throttling Maryland. This is going to be a really good game. Again, this is a tough game to pick. Penn State puts up a lot of yards on offense. But Iowa doesn't allow a lot. It's a tough one. Another one that I've kind of gone back and forth with, but I'm gonna go with Iowa at home. It may change to Penn State by the end of the week for me. I'm not gonna change it on here. We'll lock it in today. I really just want Iowa to win because I don't like James Franklin. He has me blocked on Twitter. I'm not a huge fan of him. He called Tennessee out years ago, and I was like, you need to worry about your own problems. And I guess he wanted to worry about my problems too and block me. Still mad he wasn't our coach last year because I was kind of hoping he was going to be at that point when there were rumors. Iowa's another one of those kind of bleh teams, but they do it so well. They stick to it. You don't watch Iowa and go, man, this is a fun game, but they suck the life out of you. It's like old Alabama teams. We've seen guys like Tua and Hurts and guys like that who have been electric, but you think about, old Bama with these quarterbacks who never really did much. But they just pounded the ball with Mark Ingram, with Derrick Henry. Their defense did the work, and it was never pretty. It just guys were able to do the work without having this electric Lane Kiffin style offense that they implemented. Iowa just sucks the blood out of you, and I think James Franklin's a heck of a coach, but I'm going to stick with Iowa at home. What the heck? I want Iowa to win this game. It's close. It's at home. I'm sticking with the Hawkeyes.
Yeah, my former coach, he would be happy with that prediction.
Iowa wrestling.
Yep, Iowa wrestling, baby. Unfortunately, I'm like you. I'm going back and forth because it's going to be a close game either way, and it's when you get these low scoring games, it makes it even tougher because it really comes down to like who has the ball last or who can convert on a 3rd and 1 or a 4th and 1 to, or who's going to miss a field goal. So it's really, really up in the air as far as that goes. For me, I'm going to predict that Penn State is able to make Iowa have to throw it more than they want to. Clifford's been good recently. He really has, but we saw what Penn State's defense has done, especially to Bo Nix. And I think we're going to get a little bit of that. It's going to have that kind of feel to it late game against Iowa. They get a turnover late, maybe late in the 3rd or early 4th, something like that. And that's just kind of the turning tide for me. I really don't know. I could be completely wrong, and it could happen for Iowa, vice versa. I'm just going to go opposite of you for Pick'ems. I'm not sure I'm like you. It could change before kick where my heart's really at. But for now, I'll say that I think Penn State is able to force a late turnover. And on top of that, I know you don't like Franklin. I think Franklin's a better coach. I think he's the better coach, and I think that's going to matter a little bit too. And like I said, the turnover. So it's going to be a good one. It'll be fun in the sense that it'll be close. It won't be fun for offensive coordinators in the country that are tuning in to look for some plays to implement to high school offenses and whatnot. But it'll be fun, a fun game to watch for betting and all that.
Yep. Got some good games this week, so we're ready for the 12 o'clock kickoff, ESPN2 on Saturday. Hopefully, we're coming back 4-2. Maybe predicting an upset at Ole Miss to move us to 5. We'll see. Got to get by the Gamecocks first. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you watching if you're on YouTube. And hopefully all three of us will see you next week. Go Vols.
Go Vols.